Okay. It says we're live. Are you alive? Are you live? Yeah. I'm live. You are. Sange Shindu Nite Uwargi Jogunanda Shinga Chivashu Idam Gurananda Tamyataya Sange Chil Saki Chanamba Janchu Bardu Dagni Kyapsuchi Dagi Chishingi Sunaki Joa Pinshir Sange Juparsho Sange Judan Soki Chanamba Janchu Bardu Dagi Kyasuchi Dagi Chishingi Sunaki Joa Pinshir Sange Juparsho Sange Chilam Saki Chanama Janju Vadu Dagi Kyasuchi Dagi Chishingi Sunaki Joa Pinshir Sange Juparsho. So I'd like to welcome anybody who's watching online. We had a few people watching last weekend, which was cool, exciting. I don't know if there's anybody watching right now besides LA, but maybe somebody in the future, so welcome. We usually start with a meditation, and today we're just going to start with a meditation to kind of finish our work week and bring ourselves here and set our motivation and just become present for the next classes over the weekend. So bring your mind into this room, into this class. 3 deep breaths. When you're ready, open your eyes and stretch. Thank you. So we're going to cover the second half of logic tonight. And then tomorrow we get to do Lojong, how to develop a good heart. And then we're going to start, we'll have the first class tomorrow night of what did the Buddha really mean. And then we'll finish up with that on Sunday morning. And we'll call it an ACI 18 class finished. Is this your last course to do? No. I was going to say we should party.
There's that one little party.
So that's just a quick outline of what we're doing this weekend. We have already done the last 2/3 of Master Shantideva's Bodhicitta Avatara, Bodhisattva's way of life. And then we did logic, right? Okay. So we're going to step back to the last class. Remember that we're in, maybe I didn't even say this, we're in the highest school, Madhyamika Prasangika school. We're in the highest school of Tibetan Buddhism, right? And in that school, how do we say things are established? What did we end with? What did we say about how things exist? Do you remember? Speak up, please.
As mental images, as projections around them.
As projections
From karma.
from karma.
We are just karma, I remember.
We did talk about that. We are just ripening. Karma's ripening, like 65 per finger snap, right? Say Mingde, Shatsam. I did email the Tibetan to you because you might want to use it. There's one little mistake, and Holly will remind me where it is if I forget. Mingde Shatsam. Ming is day, is the name, right? So what this means is that things are, they are established merely through a name and a term. That's what dependent origination is according to Madhyamika Prasangika. So there's an object, and we establish what it is through a name and a term. And this is the highest understanding of how things exist. It is, Gyelse says it's the only existence that things have. So if we go back to Chi Chedra, which is kind of where we ended last week, when we were talking about the relationship between the term quality and qualityness, and the quality and a quality, or car and carness, a car, the car. And quality here means a mental image, okay? Quote, quality. So that's qualityness or quality, right? So in your reading, I know Nicole has looked at the reading. Has anybody else looked at the reading? For this, well, for logic. There are a lot, a lot of arguments, and there are a lot of them. Don't get bogged down in trying to understand and to do each one. Just choose one small argument and read it and contemplate it and meditate it. Don't try and read this as a book. It's the kind of thing you put on the shelf and you take down and you try another one, 6 months from now or something, and you just chew on it. So, and Gyelse says it's important to read the middle sections of each of the readings, which describes the correct viewpoint. So that's just kind of a little key when you're reading these arguments that debaters are having, basically, that you read the middle section because that is the correct viewpoint. The other ones, they may sound crazy, they may sound totally real, they may be totally confusing and you can't understand any of it. It's okay, don't worry about it. It's a thick, heavy book, a lot to chew on. It is logic. So that's just kind of a warning. Let's talk about the relationship between things. So how does car and Chevy relate to each other? There are two types of relationship. Say dakchik, gidrawa. Dakchik, gidrawa. To be one thing is to automatically be the other thing. So to be a Chevy is to automatically be a car. We can say automobile. If we have a Chevy truck, we can stick it in that. So automatically Chevy is in that relationship with car. The classical example is a changing thing and a thing which is made. And this is a classical example of a two-way relationship. We'll get back to car and Chevy in a minute. A changing thing and a thing which is made. Is a changing thing a thing which is made? And is a made thing a thing which is changing? So they have a two-way relationship. Now, what about car and Chevy?
No.
It's not two-way. They still have a relationship. They have what is called a relationship of identity. To be one thing is to automatically be the other thing. So we can have two kinds of relationship of identity. One that goes only one direction and one which goes both ways. One that has just a single relationship, like Chevy to car, but not car to Chevy. Or two-way, like changing thing and a thing which is made. The classic, another classic example, say Boompa, and Boompa Dopa, excuse me, Boompe Dopa. So Boompa is a water pitcher, right? Dopa means opposite of all that it's not. So here there's a relationship between a quality and a characteristic. So we have a water pitcher and the opposite of all that it's not. Think about those words. What is the opposite of all that it's not? It's what it is. It's not saying everything that it's not. It's saying the opposite of all that it's not. So the opposite of all that it's not a Boompa is a Boompa. We could also say, so they're the same substance. We could also say, Gyelse is Shira's daughter. Shira's daughter is Gyelse, same substance. Princess and Michael and Melissa's cat. Michael, Melissa's cat, and Princess, right? Nicole and Brian's wife, same substance. So this is a relationship between quality and characteristic. And this is a two-way relationship, right? So with the car and the Chevy, we had the one way. It's just reinforcing these different ideas. Between car and Chevy, to be a Chevy is to be a car, but to be a car is not automatically to be a Chevy. So to test whether a relationship of identity exists is that if you remove one object, the other one will also disappear. If you removed all cars in the world, you would automatically remove all Chevys, right? If you remove all Chevys, there's lots of other cars. So Chevy shares a relationship of identity with car, but car does not share an identity, a relationship of identity with Chevy. Okay? So it can be a one-way relationship or a two-way relationship, one of identity, relationship of identity. So the second kind, we just talked about the first relationship. The second relationship is say Deju, Hidrelba. Deju, Hidrelba. This is a relationship, this is a cause and effect relationship. Relation, and the technical definition of it is the relationship of something coming from some other thing. A relationship of something coming from some other thing. A thing and its cause. It's a cause and effect relationship. And this can only be a one-way relationship. Maybe. Normally, causes and effects are a one-way relationship. If you remove the cause, you will automatically remove the result, right? But if you remove the result, what happens to the cause?
Because if it's cause, it has to have a result.
Right. So the cause, but if you remove the result, the cause can still have occurred?
Not as a cause.
Not as a
for
cause.
that thing.
According to Madhyamika Prasangika, right? According to the highest philosophical school. For it to be a cause, its result must also exist. When you see a result, then you can look at it and think, oh, that must have been the cause. But if you don't have a result, you can't, there's no cause. If you have no cause, there's no result. So Madhyamika Prasangika gets fancy, and they consider cause and effect to be a two-way relationship. The result depends on the cause, and the cause depends on the result. Right? There are three parts that have to be true for this to exist. One, it has to be the same substance. Two, it has to be conceptually distinct. Do you understand that phrase? Okay. And if you remove one, you remove the other.
What was the first one?
Has to be the same substance. So two ways, A equals B and B equals A, right? One way is A equals B, but B does not equal A, or the other way. You can stick anything in there for A. You can stick Chevy or car or Tahia and Alicia or, whatever you want to stick in there. So there are only three possibilities there are objects in the universe. They will either be in a relationship of identity, in a relationship of cause and effect, or not be in a relationship at all. So the classic example is, say, Nupoi, Chilok, Sujunwa. Nupoi, Chilok, Sujunwa. A working thing in the moment after it, and the original working thing. We'll get there in a minute. A working thing in the moment after it, and the original working thing. You can't say that the original working thing shares a relationship with the working thing a moment after it. Because at the time that the original working thing exists, the future working thing does not yet exist and has never existed. So a working relationship is either the same thing or the thing and its cause. So the definition would be of not to be in a relationship at all. This is the definition of not to be in a relationship at all. So the original working thing, it reminds me very much of Arya Nagarjuna. A working thing in the moment after it, and the original working thing. And it's phrased that way rather than the original working thing and the working thing in the moment after, which is interesting. And I don't know why.
How is that different than cause and effect? The working thing causing the next moment of the working thing, which is the effect of the first, which is a relationship.
Tahia said, how is that different than cause and effect? You have a working thing in this moment, which is the cause for the working thing in the next moment. I don't know. Okay. I don't know.
I think it's a difference in the schools. If I remember. I might be getting to it because there was a thing on time.
Yeah.
That came right after this.
But let's talk about cause and effect according to Madhyamika Prasangika. The logic school, which is not Madhyamika Prasangika, right? It's a lower school. And lower meaning that philosophically they haven't become so refined in how they're perceiving something as the higher schools. Let's put it that way. So the logic school considers cause and effect to be a one-way relationship. And so this definition, a working relationship, a working thing in the moment after it, and the original working thing, we're looking, as Nicole just said, and thank you because I had totally lost it there, that it's a different school's perception of cause and effect and how things function. So in the logic school, cause and effect is considered to be a one-way relationship, not a two-way relationship. One of the proofs for emptiness is the fact that there is never a moment when the cause and the effect both are existing together at the same time. So it's impossible that a cause can bring about a result, independent of your projections. There is never an instant when the seed became the tree, or a seed became a tree, self-existently. So the working thing and the moment after it, or we can say the last moment of your mind in the intermediate state between death and rebirth, flops over into the first moment of your mind in the womb. Okay? There is never a self-existent point in time when the previous mind caused the latter moment of mind. And this is evidence that there is no external reality out there. And these things are merely coming from your mind. For example, the reason the sun comes up in the morning, it's our group projection. Okay? According to Madhyamika Prasangika school, our rebirth, the growth of a tree, a sunrise, they are all projections of our minds. And they don't have any self-existent reality independent of that. However, we don't have a choice. They are forced on us by our karma. And you know what? They function quite well, these projections. It's incorrect to say that because they're projections, they're not real. These things are real because they are projections. And when someone dies of cancer, it will be real because their mind has a projection as it being real. So right now we're smack in the middle of, say, Riklam, which reasoning or logic. Which is Rigpa. So again, the story of Gyelse. He said the most important thing he ever learned from Gyelse was logic. Of everything else he studied with him, that was the most important thing. So it must be pretty important, huh? So Rigpa is logic. And a typical Riklam, which would be a logical path, right? Or logical way of thinking, or a typical Rigpa has three parts. Say Zhichen. Zhichen is the subject. So that's the first part. And Jupje Chu, say Jupje, Chu, is the assertion / quality that you're trying to prove. And that's the second part. And the third part is, say, ta is the reason. So the subject is the thing you want to prove. Zhichen means let's consider. For example, Zhuchen Dongfani. Let's consider emptiness. Say Zhuzha is the assertion. And it consists of the subject and the quality you're trying to prove. For example, Emptiness is a working thing. So that's the assertion. Now the quality, the quality of this is the quality of the subject you're trying to prove. So for example, being a working thing. So our assertion is emptiness is a working thing. The quality of that assertion is working thing. Right? And the quality of the subject, the chuchen, is working thing, emptiness. It doesn't have to be something that exists. You just have to be willing to prove it. You and your opponent must agree that it is the quality you're trying to prove. Your opponent, you're debating, yeah. In logic, you're debating. Okay? It doesn't have to exist. The reason, say talk is the reason. The reason may include anything you want to say as the reason. Because it performs a function. Right? So let's consider emptiness. Emptiness is a working thing because it performs a function. Because the sky is blue. You can say anything you want. So let's bring this a little closer to home. Let's consider Gyelse. Gyelse should practice more seriously because she's going to die tonight. You know, there will be a night when I will leave this body. And I know it's true. I know Nicole knows what I'm talking about. Does your opponent know what you're talking about? This is important, right? Do they understand what it is to study and practice more? Do they understand what that means? Do they know that I'm going to die at some point? Do the three relationships hold? We'll get to that in a moment. The purpose of logic is to address the places where we have spiritual obstacles. So we take a subject, we say what we're trying to prove about it, right, or the quality, and then we give our reason that we're trying to prove that. And we can do it with ourselves, we can do it with other people. So you got 1, 2, and 3. The subject, the quality of assertion, and the reason, right? If 1 plus 3 are true, if the subject and the reason are true, do they relate to each other? Is it true that I'm going to die tonight? Let's just say, I'm going to die a night. Or, okay, we don't have to be specific about tonight.
I know we're supposed to do
It's true, right? The subject and the reason work together. What about 3 plus 2, the reason plus the quality of the assertion? Is it true or false?
True.
I should study more if I'm going to die tonight, because I'm going to die tonight. So 3 plus 2 is true. 3 plus 2 is true. I think I said 3 plus 2 is true. If not 2, do you remember this from last Sunday? We were talking about these. If not 2, the negative necessity, right? We had the positive necessity and the negative necessity. If not 2, then not 3. Is it true that I shouldn't study if we aren't going to die tonight? No, not really. I should still study because I am going to die at some point. And what will help me is what is in my karmic pocket. And what helps me fill that with positive things is what's in my mind and how I interrelate with my environment, with the beings in my environment and so forth. So this is the essence of the death meditation. Before you get up every morning, you can say, I'm going to die tonight. What is the highest thing I can do today? If this were my last day, what would I do? Would I go and put a light bulb somewhere, or would I go and do something else? It's always a big question. If I'm exhausted, would I come and teach? Yes. If I were sick and in the hospital, would I teach? Yes. Would I study? Yes. These are the highest things for me. So remember, we're talking logic. We come into Madhyamika Prasangika, but we are in the logic school, in the Sautantrika school. And in this school, the definition of ultimate reality is anything you can confirm directly with your senses. It's ultimate reality. It's quite different than Madhyamika Prasangika.
So what school is that?
Sautantrika.
Could you repeat that definition?
Sure. Anything you can confirm directly with your senses. So there are these two objects that exist, or groups of objects that exist in our world that we can't confirm with our senses. Say kokir.
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 It means hidden. 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 Like emptiness. But then there's something even more hidden than emptiness. Say shintu kokir. Shintu kokir. Shintu means really. So we've got really hidden. And the thing that is really hidden to us is the subtle workings of karma and its consequences. They say only an enlightened being can see that clearly. So we have this Sautantrika definition, anything you can confirm directly with your senses. What do we do then with emptiness and karma? So Madhyamika Prasangika takes exception to this definition, of course. Well, maybe not of course, but. And then there is, say, Nungyur. Nungyur. These are things that are obvious reality. This is what Sautantrika is talking about. Right? Things that I see with my senses, obvious reality. The clouds in the sky, the flowers here, the three of you there, this room, the lights, obvious reality, Nungyur. So there are things we can't see, like why is there a stain on the wall? We know how the stain got on the wall, but why did the stain get on the wall there and not over there? We don't know it, right? It's Shintu kokir. A Buddha can see that. An Arya can see emptiness directly. It's not as hidden. An Arya cannot see the hidden workings of karma and its consequences. So there are three levels of reality. all going on at the same time, right? A Buddha can see hidden reality. We cannot. An Arya can see emptiness directly. We cannot, right? And we can see Nungir, obvious reality. Sometimes we might get glimpses somewhere else. So to believe that you should really practice as though your hair was on fire, right? That I was going, as if your hair was on fire, that I'm going to die tonight, right? The reason we can't do it is because we can't see the truth of that we're going to die tonight. We don't believe it. There will come a moment when we will lose this body. And this creates a spiritual obstacle. And it's true that we don't believe it. I mean, I don't believe it. I don't live my life that way. It's not just teenagers who are like that, who think they're invincible, right? It's the rest of us who think we're superheroes and invincible as well. So we prove things to ourselves that our normal mind doesn't want to look at. We do it through logic. We do it in our meditations. We do it on the debate ground. We talk about it with each other over and over and over until we come up with the truth and prove it to ourselves. Not just because someone else said it. Because it's much easier to deny what someone else says than what you have really cooked yourself and had a visceral experience of, that you've had a direct experience of it yourself. Then you can't deny it, right? Well, you might be able to. You could say, oh, I was crazy, right? So the things, this is very helpful for the things that we don't want to admit to ourselves. The things that will keep us from our goal, our mental afflictions, our spiritual obstacles. So, don't stay on the fence, on the edge there of the fence. Don't have tetson. You remember what tetson is? Lazy doubt. Make a decision through logic. Is it true that I could die tonight? Yes. If it's true, what is the highest thing I could be doing? What is the thing that will help me the most to get enlightened? And this is how we get our understandings and our realizations. It's going through these exercises and looking at them. It's like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Now I need to do this. So that's the first thing, one of the first things we do with logic. The second thing is to establish what you do know. And be very clear about what you do know. So we establish what we don't know. We establish what we do know. We open our spiritual eye to things like, I'm going to die. So how much you don't know and how much you do know. Especially about how much you don't know about what other people are thinking. Which he and I have been talking about these last couple of days. You don't know what other people are thinking, right? So we're looking at things that are like things, mostly at things that I don't know. So they're kind of like negative things. We're proving something which is an absence, a negative in that sense, not negative as sometimes we say negative and related to being bad. We're talking about and absence. So we divide all things into those things which we could see if they were here, and those which you can't see if they were here. And there are proofs for each of those. An example would be, so the subject, the Chuchen, we'll do it in debate form. Let's take the middle of the Pacific Ocean in the middle of the night on a dark moon night with clouds. It's totally dark. We're in an airplane and it's totally dark. 2, the assertion, the drupja. There is no smoke there. If there were a fire, you could see it, right? There would be light. I'm talking about smoke from a fire, okay? You can't see any ships, you can't see any islands, you can't see any fire. Should be, I didn't catch this before, there is no fire there, not there is no smoke there. Let's change it. Let's take the middle of the Pacific Ocean in the middle of the night when it's dark out. It's totally dark. There is no fire there because there is no smoke there. That is our reason. If smoke had been there and it was daytime, could you have seen it? So this is a classical proof. And you know what? I want to check that because of I don't know if it was my mistyping it into my notes or not. So I'm going to check that and remind me tomorrow. Come on. There we go. Bright yellow, so we can check it. The absence of something you couldn't have seen under normal circumstances. So you're proving something negative. You're proving that there is no smoke there. So that's why I need to check to see what the phrasing was of this. If there had been smoke there, could you have seen it?
Not at night.
Not at night.
Pitch black night.
So it's a proof that something is not there that could have been seen had it been there. Could have been seen in the day. Had it been there. So for another example, take any of us here in this room who is not able to see pretas wandering around in this same room. Pretas, hungry ghosts, we call them. We cannot have a pramana because we cannot see them. We're not at that level, or I'm not at that level that I can see them. So I can't have a pramana. So proof of something that I couldn't have seen under normal circumstances. So being in the middle of the Pacific Ocean in the dark of the night is not, quote, a normal circumstance. It's an exceptional circumstance. So negative things, focusing on negatives. Why? What's emptiness? It's a negative thing. It's not a negative thing. It's a lack of. Negative thing is like making it into a positive because it's not a thing, right? It's a negative. So here, you know, I don't hear them so much anymore. I think it's the education on what emptiness is getting much clearer and much better. I don't hear so much anymore about like emptiness is is a luminous awareness of the mind, or emptiness is like a black hole, or you can see emptiness by totally clearing your mind of all thoughts, any and all content. And the biggest problem with these is that there is a failure to understand that emptiness is a negative thing. Emptiness. Right? A negative thing is a chu. Say chu. Chu like dharma, but it also means a thing which exists. It's something which exists. Example is emptiness is a negative thing which exists. Again, it makes it sound positive there because it's saying it's a thing which exists, right? Does emptiness exist?
Yes.
Or is it non-existent?
You just said it exists.
You don't seem so sure about it though.
If it's a lack, it's hard to think of it as a thing which
It's true. It's true. If it's a lack, it's very hard to think of it. So in Tibetan, say Ranu,
Ranu,
Su,
Su,
Tope Le,
Topelu,
Rani,
Ran,
Tope Le, Rani, sorry. Gacha,
Gacha,
Nusu,
Nusu,
Chene,
Chen,
To,
Topo,
Yupe Chu.
Yupi,
A negative thing, and this is it's in your Tibetan there, so if you don't want to write it down. A negative thing is a thing which must be perceived by the state of mind that perceives it directly through a process of eliminating directly that which it denies. This is the definition of a negative thing. So how do we prove a negative thing? What does negative mean? It's an object which you have to perceive by excluding something else. A negative thing, see a negative thing, and eliminate what it is not. So what's the point here? Well, Lord Buddha said to prove to yourself that you don't know what other people are thinking. Take me, for example. I shouldn't judge because I can't read others' minds right now. Yet. Right? I can't read others' minds yet. That's the statement. So then test it out. Let's go do it again. Does one hold? Is it true that I can't read other people's minds? I'll say it's true. So please take my word for it. Right? If it's true that I can't read other people's minds, I shouldn't judge them. Right? Yeah. I wish. I wish. So it's a good proof. It works, right? This proof. Am I going to stop judging people this moment? Probably not, unfortunately. So, we'll watch our minds doing this, going, I don't know what they're thinking and I shouldn't be judging them, but I know it really well. And this is one reason to study logic, especially the proof of the absence of something, like the absence of me knowing what someone else is thinking. So Lord Buddha said this is one of the most important aspects of logic, proving how much you don't know. Why? So you stop thinking you do know and creating bad karma, negative karma. I'm going to use negative that way. Karma which is detrimental to yourself and to others. How many mental afflictions are posited on thinking you know things, on assumptions that we make? You assume somebody is doing something and you have no idea why. I'm fighting this one right now, big time. Tiggy is laughing because she knows. What's that? Yeah. So does that mean if we see someone hurting someone else that we shouldn't do anything? That we should just stand by and say, I don't know, maybe that person deserved it.
Nope.
What should we do, Nicole?
We have to act with what we can see, but always keeping in mind that there's lots we don't see. So trying to do it with that understanding, but still acting on what you see.
So we have to act on what we see. Now, does that mean that does that mean that we judge the person who's doing it? Or judge their action?
That's what we don't do.
What?
Judge the person.
That's what we don't do, is judge the person.
Hopefully.
Somebody you stop them, but you don't think they're a terrible person.
Right, so Tahia said, because her voice isn't very loud, Tahia said, we stop them, but we don't judge them as being a bad, horrible person. Why? Master Shanti David told us just a few classes ago, right? They are under the force of their karma, just like we are. And they can't do anything. This is their karma that is ripening. So rather than blaming and judging them, what would be the higher thing to do? Stopping this person with compassion, knowing that they're forced, and knowing that you're all compassion for yourself for having seen this. Because there is a seed in you to see this going on. And we don't blame ourselves for seeing it generally. I mean, we're all beginning to, right? Oh, I'm seeing that, it must be my karma. But our immediate reaction usually is judging the other person. Right? So can we adjudge the apparent state of their mind? What's appearing to us? Yeah, we can. To what they seem to be doing or what they seem to be saying, we need to object to it and do something about it. Do we really know what's going on 100%? No. So if you can't be sure what they're doing, but if it looks like it's not okay to, judge the action, but not the person. You know, anyway, never mind. Maybe they're an enlightened being, just trying to push something a little further so something will shift, right? So use this method in your morning meditation. And you know what? Your day will go a whole lot better. Half your mental afflictions will melt away. Melt. Melt like butter. So Lord Buddha said, if you are not me or someone like me, you should not judge because you will surely fall. Take a look, take a moment, take 10 seconds before you open your mouth, and you'll be happier. Please remind me, help me. So what about this thing, this gotcha? What does it mean if some self-existing thing does exist? Why could it never happen? what would a self-existent person be like if it did exist? A statue. But even that changes. So it's really hard to get clear on what a self-existent thing is. So in meditation, spend most of your time trying to identify that self-existent thing, that self-existent boss, that self-existent husband, that self-existent, mother-in-law, or whatever it happens to be. And then spend most of your time on that, and then work a little bit of time on canceling that self-existent being out, right? Canceling that perception. So the way to look at emptiness is to look for its opposite. When you find it's not there, you see its emptiness. So when you look for the self-existent boss, and you go looking for it, you go looking for it, you go looking for it, you can't find it, that is the emptiness of the self-existent boss. So there is a positive way to describe emptiness. It's the lack of a self-existent thing. You can't look for the absence of a soccer ball. If there is no soccer ball there. So looking at self-existent things, everything we think is self-existent. Look around this room. How many, even every single eyelash, how many self-existent things do we think are here? Looking at that, along with increasing your good karma, along with increasing the goodness that you do, right? Increasing your ethical behavior, it will force you into deeper and deeper realizations. Behavior? What is behavior? How you act. How you act. Yeah. Good question. So the second application, improving emptiness, it is one of the most important negative things there are. So there are two kinds of negatives. Say gappa. Gappa. This is a negative in terms of general. And it's just one of the logic subjects. There are hundreds. Emptiness is the most important after Chichedra, okay? So there's Gappa. And it just means negative. So say Mayingak. Mayin is an, well, never mind, I won't get into that. Negative in the sense of something is not something. These flowers are not a pen, right? An absence where the words imply something else. Classic example is it's something that doesn't last. Okay. So example is say Dramitapa. Sound is a changing thing. What does it imply?
Sound is not an unchanging thing.
Sound is not an unchanging thing. So consider the statement, sounds are always changing things. This is a negative statement because you can only think about it by eliminating something else. You must eliminate all cases where sounds would be unchanging things. It's hard, I know. So let's take maybe a simpler example. Consider John Smith, the chubby guy. He never eats during the day. Okay, we've got somebody named John Smith, he's chubby, but he never eats during the day. What does that imply?
He eats at night.
He eats at night. Right? So another example would be is, oh honey, what you cook this time is really good. What does that imply?
But the other time you didn't cook.
Say,
The other times you didn't cook.
the other times you didn't cook so good. And what did you say?
Same.
Same thing, right? So it implies an exclusion. It excludes all the other bad dinners that they cooked in the past, right? So it's an implication. So it seems that all general truths are mayingaks, negative things which imply something else. And all unchanging things are negative. So the first kind of negative thing we have is the kind that implies something else. Okay, the second kind is say megak.
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 And this is what is called, this is very technical language, a non-affirming negative. It's the simple absence of something that is not present here. So megak is always an absence. So we could say the two-headed purple elephant rampaging through this room, right? What is the biggest absence of all times? Emptiness. The simple absence of a self-existent thing, a thing that doesn't depend on your karma. And the test of whether you understand emptiness well, and if it is forefront in your mind all the time, I'm going to add, because I think I understand emptiness pretty well, but I haven't had a deep experience of it, is the extent to which other people can cause a mental affliction in you. The extent to which other people can cause. Like if I'm interacting with you, Ale, and I get angry, I am not in that moment understanding your emptiness. When I sit down and think about it, of course it makes sense, but in the middle of the heat of it, am I thinking about emptiness? You know, when somebody is saying something that I don't like? No, of course I'm not. Plus, whether I would commit a bad karma when reacting to them by saying something nasty, yelling back, being defensive, all of the things I do, right? So to be a negative thing, the term used to express it doesn't have to contain any negative wording such as not. One is by implication, and the other one is just a simple absence. And the classic examples are, say, namka,
Namka.
namka,
Namka.
empty space, and tompani. Tompani. What's tompani? Emptiness. So in logic, one reason we study logic is so we don't judge other people. Right? And two, coming to understand through logic that something is not there. The mega. The fact that something is not there. Emptiness is a mega. So you can appreciate that thing which is not there, which we call the gotcha, a little more now. The thing, the ja, which we gak, the thing which we deny, the thing which we negate, the thing which we say is not here. What is that? A self-existent thing. How much of it exists? Nada, nothing, zero, right? It has as much existence now as it ever has and ever will. None. And ever did. None, right? That thing which emptiness is empty of, the gotcha. And the sad thing, or the irony of it, is that holding on to that self-existent thing causes us every pain we have. Because we're grasping onto something that doesn't exist now, never did exist, and never will exist. It's a pretty cruel joke. So we're talking about something that we believe in with our whole heart. Well, hopefully not as much as we used to. It never exists, never will, and never did. And it's causing all of our suffering, every individual suffering. And it's so powerful and overwhelming. And all you want is really for someone to say, show it to me so I can stop. I can stop my suffering. I can stop my pain. I can stop other people's pain. So that I can be an angel and bring happiness and bliss to others, right? Just tell me what I have to do. And it's just as simple as this. Just stop reacting to your world and trying to change things self-existently. Doesn't work. We're all old enough to have tried it for quite a while. We tried to fix this a little over here, and this a little bit over there, and how about a little bit over here? Oh, I think I'll eat this kind of food and it'll make me better. And oh, that didn't work. Let me try this. And let me go argue with that person and try and get them to change their mind. You know? Wake up. And I'm not saying this just to you, I'm saying it to me too. I mean, that's what the beauty of teaching a class is. You can see yourself in it and you just keep hearing it over and over, right? Rule of thumb, check your reaction and do the opposite. it's fun to really get into that. You know, I can remember doing this years ago. It's like, okay, today's the opposite day. I'm starting to get upset at somebody, and then I go, oh, what can I do for you? It's my antidote, right? So think of your worst problem, figure out why it's happening to you. Nothing has any nature of its own. It's all coming from our karma, right? And begin to work with your karma, change your karma, keep your vows, keep your 6 times book. Right? Emptiness is the biggest magog of all time. We can't blame anybody else anymore. We have to take full responsibility for where we are and what we're seeing in our world. So stop treating all those people who you're irritated with, all those things you're irritated with, like a 2-headed purple elephant rampaging through this room. So those are the main objects or the main applications of logic. Those things which you aren't able to see them first with the eyes of logic. You can see all things with your third eye of reasoning, with logic. Example, you don't know what others are thinking. Prove it to yourself over and over and over and over again. Che-gomen, right? Did I really know what he was thinking? I don't even have to think about it very long at all. It's like, no. Do the 3 checks. Take Gyelse. She shouldn't judge others because she doesn't know what they're thinking. Do the relationships hold. 1 and 3 and 2 and 3. And you go through it in your meditation over and over and over again, and then you get up and you'll go somewhere and see somebody and you'll immediately judge them. So then you go back on your cushion and you remind yourself again, and the time gap will get smaller and smaller. It's like, oh, I judge them, and you'll see it. Maybe it'll be an hour later, maybe it'll be 2 minutes later. And then that 2 minutes becomes 1 minute and 45 seconds, and then 1.5 minutes, and it just gets smaller and smaller until all of a sudden you're just about ready to say something and you don't say it. And then because you've gone over it and habituated your mind to it over and over again, it's impossible to do that in the heat of the moment. But a few hours later, when you're like, something happened today to me. Somebody was going to do something, and they told me what they were going to go do. And about 45 minutes later, I went, they probably could use some help moving that thing. It's big and awkward, and I didn't even think of it at that moment. And when I finished what I was doing and went to where I thought they might be, they weren't there. And then they showed up, and I got to be able to do it anyway. But it took me, like, I don't know, it was at least an hour. I was like, oh, I should have offered to help, right? I was just thinking about what I wanted to do and what I needed to do today. So we get these chances to redeem ourselves and to plant new karmas. So, how would you use a correct reason to prove the absence of something? For example, consider this room. It's got some educated Buddhists in it. It would be then improper for anyone in this room to talk about hungry ghosts if no one had had a valid perception of them. The thing that is absent in this proof is that anyone, I'm going to say, at least for an exercise here, that anyone saying that hungry ghosts exist who has not seen one, that's absent here. Right? It's none of, I don't know, I haven't seen them. Maybe you guys have. I can say about myself. So the application is that we shouldn't mention Buddhist ideas to others unless we have a valid perception of the thing ourselves, unless we have had. And we'll talk more about what a valid perception is. What is a valid perception? Anybody remember?
Something perceived with the fresh, unerring mind.
Something perceived with a fresh and unerring mind. So a promenade, we talked about like driving down by the Bluey Orchard and it being dusk and a leaf blowing across the road, right? Was that a valid perception? There's a difference, remember, between valid and correct. Given what you knew, was it a valid perception?
Yeah.
Yes. Was it a correct perception? No. No. So everything that we see is a valid perception. Now, whether it's correct or not, that's a whole nother discussion. So unless we have had a valid perception of, say, karma by trying it out, we shouldn't talk to someone else about it. Because we need to talk from our own experience. Like I can say, hey Dad, I tried this out and it works. Let me tell you about it. I did X, Y, and Z, and then all these amazing things happened to me, right? Does that mean we shouldn't share our ideas? I don't think that's quite what it's saying myself. And I'm saying that personally. I'm not saying that that's what was taught. We can share ideas and we don't even need to put a label as being Buddhist. Generally speaking, though, I'm thinking back right now to when I first became a vegetarian. I was just like, you gotta try this, it's so amazing, and I feel so good, and I wanted everybody to become a vegetarian, right? And I was probably about 17. And it's pushing ideas onto other people who are not ready for them, right? And who we have to be careful about that. So, hungry ghosts, pretas. Should we mention them to other people if we haven't had a valid perception about them? And we could say, you know, they talk about such and such. But can you say, I know that they exist without your own valid perception? So there are two types of correct reasons to prove the absence of something. Say mamike, takyangdak. Mamike, takyangdak. A correct reason to prove the absence of something. That's what that means. So the first kind is, say minawa, mamike, takyangdak. So we already know that Mamikpe Takyan Dak is the correct reason to prove an absence of something. And Mamingwe is like, it's another word for hidden. So a correct reason for proving the absence of something which is difficult for the other person to perceive. So the thing that we are denying, we're still talking negatives here, involves something imperceptible to the opponent. So consider the guy standing in front of me, Zhu Chen. I can't say that he's not a Buddha, because I haven't had a valid perception of him. Can I say that Tahia is a Buddha? I haven't had a valid perception of it yet. Can I say that she is a warm and loving and insightful person? Yes.
Definitely.
Can I say that she's very suspicious, like an angel? Yes. But I haven't proven to myself that she's a Buddha yet, unfortunately. The second one, say Nangru, Mamikpe, Takyanda, Nangru, Mamikpe, Takyanda. Nangru means apparent. So a correct reason to prove the absence of something which the other person can perceive. So that the thing we're denying can appear to a valid perception. For example, consider the top of this pen, right? There's no car there because there's no Chevy there. There's So we're denying, I mean, they really have no relationship at all, right? They have no relationship at all. So we're proving the absence of something which the other person can perceive. Or we could say, consider let me think. If somebody else has one while I'm thinking. I'm not good at this.
For ones that someone can perceive?
Yeah.
Can.
The other person, the absence of something which another person can see. So consider the flowers. There's no bees there because there are no bees in this room. I think that would work. I think that would work. So what's the point? What's the point? It has nothing to do with Chevys and cars, or bees and flowers. To prove to ourselves, just because we can't perceive a good quality in someone else doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. We don't know what qualities they have. What we see is a projection. So, Sorry, I just got a cramp in my leg. 3 general incorrect logical statements. Say Dejuki,
Dejuki,
Gyelwe,
Gyelwe,
Tensik.
Tensik,
Dejuki,
Dejuki,
Gyelwe,
Gyelwe,
Tensik.
Tensik.
The quality you're trying to prove totally contradicts the reason. For example, consider sound. It's not a changing thing because it's produced. If it's produced, it has to be a changing thing. But we've just said it's not a changing thing in this syllogism. The reason contradicts the quality. The second one, Dejuki,
Dejuki,
Manepa,
Manepa,
Tensik.
Tensik.
Dejuki,
Dejuki,
Manepa,
Manepa,
Tensik.
Tensik.
The quality you're trying to prove is not definitely proven by the reason. Consider sound. It's something you can hear because it's a changing thing. Does the reason prove the quality? No. Number 3, Dejuki,
Dejuki,
Ma,
Ma,
Jupe,
Jupe,
Tensik.
Tensik.
Dejuki, Ma,
Dejuki, Ma,
Jupe,
Jupe,
Tensik.
Tensik.
The quality you're trying to prove is not definitely proven by the reason. And I did include these in the Tibetan for you, so with the English underneath, just because I thought it would be easier to be able to look at them. Consider sound. It's a changing thing because it's sound. The reason and the thing are the same. So the reasons given are inaccurate. Something is wrong with the reason. What's wrong? 1, the reason is non-existent. He is suffering because he stabbed a rabbit with horns. He's been stabbed by a rabbit with horns. A rabbit with horns does not exist. So the reason is non-existent. 2, the subject's non-existent. Consider the horns of a rabbit. 3, the quality is also the reason. Sound is a changing thing because it's a changing thing. 5, the subject is the quality to prove. Consider sound. It's sound because it's changing. 6, the reason does not apply to the subject. Sound is a changing thing because you can see it with your eyes. Does seeing it with your eyes apply to sound? Seven, part of the reason is incorrect. Trees have minds because at night their leaves curl up and go to sleep. Does their leaves curling up at night prove that they have a mind? So it's an incorrect reason. So here you are debating with somebody and they doubt one of the parts of your argument, like your reason is incorrect. So the final, number 8, bad reason is called bad for the particular school you're debating with. And we're talking in the context of monastical debating, right? So, and it could just be a person. If the Jains, for example, would say, not to say, they would, the Jains, for example, would not say to a Buddhist, consider a tree, it has a mind because it dies when you peel the bark off of it. Because Buddhists don't believe that a tree has a mind. And they believe, and they don't believe that a tree, quote, dies. They believe it just dries up. So we're talking different, knowing what to say and how to say it to somebody else who thinks differently than us, who holds different ideas than us. So the point is that we must be logical when debating Buddhism with other people and with other American Buddhists, quite frankly. So if we don't present Buddhist ideas logically and in a clear way that makes sense to people, that they can accept, we have destroyed their chances of becoming an enlightened being. We have destroyed their chances of avoiding death. So we have to find this common ground, where we can, something that is shared, a shared place where we can have a discussion, where the other person understands what we're talking about. At least the words and the ideas, they may not agree with us, but at least we have something in common together that they understand. And from there, then we can, just as we've done it with our own minds, teased our own minds logically to get to a certain place, we can bring them along with us so that they make the conclusions themselves. Oh, well, A is true, then B must be true. If B is true, then C must be true. If a dog sees this as a chew toy, and I see it as a pen, then which is it? Everybody knows what a dog is, right? And what a chew toy is. Everybody knows what a pen is, and that what we do with it. So if I see it as something else, and a dog sees it as something else, then we can all agree that I think that we have seen animals pick up things that we thought were something else and chew on them and they become their toys. Then what is it? Is it a chew toy or is it a pen? We just bring people along like that so that we don't disturb their minds, so they don't freak out, so they don't get depressed, so they don't get scared. Right? The Western view of civilization is distorted, right? And through these teachings, we can save people from suffering. I have a whole big addendum here. So I think we'll stop there. Logic. So before we stop, why do we use logic? Why do we learn logic?
We don't judge other people.
So we don't judge other people.
We can't see their mind. We can prove to ourselves that we can't see what they're thinking.
We can prove to ourselves that we can't see what they're thinking. That's one really big reason. If we could do that, how would our world change? What's another reason? So we're talking there not, and that's also proving to ourselves that things exist that we cannot see. So when somebody talks about seeing emptiness directly and we have not seen it, or seeing Pluto even, and we haven't seen it, we don't just throw it out because we can prove to ourselves that there are things that we haven't seen. Right? It's a hard course. There's a lot of technical language. There's a lot of movement of the mind. The reading is not easy. Take one of the readings and just keep reading it over and over. And okay, what does that mean? And read just the center part of it so that you get the idea of what the Majjhimika Prasangika viewpoint is on that particular thing, if you can understand what they're even talking about. It's hard. Come to your friends, talk to them about it, chew on it together, and we'll all figure it out together. Any questions?
About 10 million.
About 10 million. I'd suggest maybe at lunch tomorrow, getting together and bring some of your questions. Eat lunch together. Since we're not doing debate round, and you do have a debate element to your homework here, right?
Okay.
Usually. I haven't looked at them yet. Oh, meditation. Sorry. Let's reopen this. What the meditation is. Meditation assignment. 15 minutes per day, analytical meditation on the process of how the mind perceives the negative thing. And then practice bringing to mind the object we deny when we speak of emptiness, followed by thinking about how this object doesn't even exist. It's very similar to another meditation that we had of the emptiness that emptiness is empty of. Trying to get us to see emptiness directly. All right. Nicole.
Sashi
Mugi Jushin Meto Drum Viral Minchi Nende Genpadi Sange Shindu Mikte Odwargi Droku Namdak Shingma Juparshu Idam Guru Pranamagama Kamnirya Tayami Kiwadi Kewoko Sunam Yashe Sotsoshe Sunam Yashe Lejumwe Tampar Kuni Topar Shu. And so you really make a dedication, send out all that light to others so that they can end their suffering. All of the goodness that we have done in this class. Thank you.